I watched a documentary yesterday with the goal of trying to find a few business lessons. And let me tell you, there were a lot. And so I'm going to share a few of them with you in this very video. So over the next couple of minutes, I have made a note of 9 of these business lessons. But those are just 9 that I want to share because when I actually watched it, there were a whole lot more. So I wrote like 2.5 pages worth of business lessons. But I've got 9 that I'm going to share. And I think number 5 is actually the top one in my opinion, or if not the top one of the most important. But what could be cool is maybe let me know which one you think is the most important, and if you've also watched this documentary, if you picked any others up that I maybe didn't mention in this video. So leave a comment, let me know what you think. And I want to jump right in, but before I jump in, I guess I need to tell you what documentary it even was about. So, literally a few days ago, there was a documentary released called A Beautiful Obsession. And the documentary is about Manchester City and their manager, Pep Guardiola, and it basically covers his last year managing them. And so I decided to keep it casual even and wear my one of my football shirts, Barcelona shirt. So that's why today is a little bit casual, but I'm going to keep this channel casual anyway. So, all right, let's jump into the lessons or a few of the lessons that I picked up. So I made a note of 9 different ones, and when I look down, I'm looking down at this paper. So um, it's really just listed down. I'm going to give you my thoughts that I picked up. And like I said, there's really a lot more. And I guess a lot of them you could think are very leadership related or very manager, business owner related. But I think as a small business owner or somebody that owns a business, actually even large businesses, some of these could be extremely valuable to you. So the first one, and it was mentioned very, very early in the documentary, is that never think you are unstoppable or never think you are unbeatable. Sometimes your business might go through incredible months or things might be going incredibly well. But it's important to always keep in mind that things can change. You never know what tomorrow holds for you. We can have all the plans in the world. And as good as a strong mindset is, you do need to keep in mind that things can change. Now, in this documentary, and I guess maybe I should even mention there could be some spoiler alerts if you don't necessarily follow football, if you haven't followed Manchester City's journey, or if you haven't watched yet. I might mention a couple of things that appear or happen in this documentary. So if you plan on watching it and you don't want to hear it from me, go watch it and then come and watch the video again. But just to give you a bit of a background, so Manchester City had some incredible years, incredible runs. They won a couple of league titles year after year for a couple of years in a row, and they were really unstoppable. Well, that's what it seemed like. And then eventually they took a little bit of a downturn. And the series actually starts with a couple of losses that they face in a row, and that threw off their entire season. It threw off their entire plans for that season. And so the manager actually said, so Pep Guardiola actually said it was very early in that documentary, never think that you are unstoppable. And I think it's an important thing to keep in mind as a business owner. But related to that, the second lesson that I would like to share is related to mindset and belief. And that is so, so, so important in your business. You really have to have a strong mindset, a positive mindset, and you have to believe in your business and you have to believe in yourself. And you need to make sure that your team believes as well. Because that belief and that mindset can take you so far. If you don't believe in your own business, why should anybody else believe in it? Or even team members. I know I've worked in previous jobs before where some of the colleagues that I work with or team members, to stick with the footballing sort of terms, stopped believing in the company, stopped believing in the product, and it affected their performance. So your mindset is important, your belief is important, and should you ever start losing belief, or if your mindset starts getting affected negatively, spend a bit of time trying to fix it and reset, or try and diagnose the reason why maybe you're feeling that way, and work on your mindset and your belief. Number 3, team talks are necessary. Team talks are not only necessary, they are important. And obviously, it was a football documentary, so there's a ton of team talks. It's team talks before a match, after a match, at halftime. But how often do you talk to your team in your business? Now, team talks are important for various reasons. So, whether you are sharing plans with them, you are trying to motivate and inspire your team, maybe it's related to feedback. So, giving feedback to the team in relation to their performance, or feedback in relation to the business's performance. Team talks on it are extremely important. And one of the companies I worked for previously, every single morning, and I can't maybe talk about all the departments because I worked as part of the sales team. Every single morning there was a team talk, and it was so important. It really let us get an idea of how the business day had gone the day before, what targets were met the day before, what was missed, and then what were the plans for that day, and where were we in terms of the month, etc. So without those team talks, you're leaving your team members not really knowing how things are going, or not really sometimes knowing maybe even what is expected of them. Team talks are an extremely important thing. You don't have to do it every day necessarily, but at least once a week. I believe at least once a week you should meet with your team, or meet with individual players on your team, and have those important team talks and discussions. And then that brings me up to the next lesson. Don't avoid difficult conversations. Now, if you watch this documentary, there were a lot of difficult conversations. Some with individual team players, some with the entire team, and it even went as high as certain board members where they were having talks between each other, and not all the talks were easy. Some of them were very difficult, and it involved individuals, and it involved the team as a whole. But those difficult conversations are important, and do not avoid them. Because if you avoid them, especially if it's related to performance or it's related to an issue, sometimes by avoiding it, it can just become worse and worse and worse. So, very important, don't avoid those difficult team talks. Don't avoid those difficult talks with individuals in your team. Have them and then move on after that. So, try to discuss whatever needs to be discussed. It might be difficult for a day or two. I know I've seen difficult talks. I've been in difficult talks where for a day or two, maybe it then seems a little bit awkward, and everyone sort of walks around now. But after that, things improve. Where if you don't have those difficult conversations, things don't improve. So don't avoid difficult conversations. Next one, and I think this is one of the important ones. I think I mentioned it right in the beginning of the video that number 5 I felt was one of the most important, or one that I think stands out a lot to me, and it's examine stats, numbers, and performance. How is your business doing? And how are the numbers looking? So sometimes things feel like they're going well. But when you actually look at it, is that really what the case is? And again, I'm going to refer back to the previous job that I worked, where every single day during those team talks, we looked at stats and numbers, and this was related to the sales teams. But just so that we knew, what are our targets? Where are we sitting currently? How are things looking? Are we on track to meet targets? Where do we need to press a little bit harder? The numbers are an extremely important thing, and in this documentary they were looking at it for a couple of reasons. So obviously keeping an eye on their rivals to see where are they in terms of performance against their rivals, but it was important even on individual players. So there were some board meetings where they actually had a chart up and they were tracking certain individual players and their performances and trying to see how do they perform, how are they performing in comparison to other players. And the same goes for a business. One of the industries I have a lot of exposure in is the retail industry. So in terms of product sales, for example, how are the product sales looking? Is there a product that's sitting on your shelf and it's not selling enough or not selling often enough? Maybe it's something you then need to get rid of. It's not worth keeping shelf space for a slow product, for example. Rather bring something in that might move much quicker. Another thing that's important when it comes to your stats and your numbers is often also your expenses. So I recently have been helping a business owner with a business plan, and when we started breaking down all the numbers, especially looking at a monthly performance as well as a monthly projection, a close look at those numbers showed that the business was actually experiencing a loss because the expenses were exceeding the income and the savings and the cash flow that that business had. And if that wasn't addressed quickly, the business was going to start moving into a negative in terms of the income statement that we were working on. So without actually sitting down and looking at it, things might have seemed okay. And once we did that, the business owner then realized this is something he needed to address, and not only address like at some point, it was urgent. And he only knew that by looking at the stats and numbers. So that's an important one. I feel one of the most important. Then the next business lesson is brand. Now I know it's a football documentary and we're talking about massive businesses, but the club's logo literally appears everywhere. So from the team bus that they're traveling on to the shorts that they were wearing at the beach. There was one scene where they were, I think it must have been like a season break where they were on a beach and they were doing some sort of meditation exercise, whatever thing. But even sitting there, their shorts were all the same. So every single player had the same shorts. Every single player was sitting on the exact same towel. And it was a whole branding thing that you can see. You know, this is part of their brand. And even opposing change rooms. So if you've ever been into a sports stadium, gone into the opposition team's change room, you'll notice that they are blank. Those walls are blank. And so what was apparent in this documentary is they walk in and they start sellotaping and putting up their flag and their logos everywhere. And it's because your brand is important. Even the small details. When Pep Guardiola is explaining the whole team structure and layout, he was using the blue magnets on the board. Manchester City plays in blue. So even those little details, he stuck to the same thing. Yes, it might be easier for the players, but I look at it as a branding thing. And for a business owner, your brand also needs to be everywhere. So it needs to be on your email signature. It needs to be on your letterheads. It needs to be on your business card. If you've got a physical store space put up, make sure you've got your logo up somewhere. If you're printing custom labels or your invoices, make sure your brand is everywhere because brand is an extremely important thing. Sometimes it's easy for somebody to mislook a name, especially typed. Typed font all looks the same, but your logo, your branding will stand out. So whether it's colors, whether it's your actual logo, when I had my law firm, I had colors that ran down the side of my page, and that was consistent with the logo that I designed. And it's just to try and create that brand recognition, which is an extremely important thing in business. So branding, very important. I know we're talking big scale when we look at a team like Manchester City, but for your business, branding is important too. So make sure you put your brand out there. Make sure you start building that recognition, that people start seeing your brand and recognizing it and being familiar with it. Lesson number 7, keep an eye on your rivals and on your competitors. So it's very easy to focus on your business and like look at your business with closed eyes and not really look around. But what are the competitors doing? What are the rivals doing? And it's important to try and identify a few rivals in your business and keep an eye on them. What are they doing? What are they doing different that you could perhaps try, or that's perhaps working for them that you haven't tried before? You need to really keep track of your rivals. One of the interesting things, and I wonder when I create a video about it, is on Facebook. You can actually go onto like your Facebook ads library and see what sort of ads your competitors are running. And it's not to say you have to go and like copy it, but at least keep an eye on what they're doing. What ideas do they have? Maybe it's something you haven't thought of and it's something you could jump onto. And moving into a local space, so being based in South Africa, if I look at some of the big retail stores, there are a few companies that recently have taken a massive knock in their businesses. And it's because of something that their rivals jumped onto. So, one retailer especially started implementing something in their business that really blew up and took over. And you can see the growth that that company's had and the drop that every other competitor had. And it's because maybe they didn't keep an eye on each other. They didn't react as quickly. They didn't jump onto a trend or something that was working. And the only way you're going to know these things is if you also keep an eye on your rivals. Otherwise, you risk losing space in your market and in your industry. So, lesson number 7, keep an eye on your rivals. Lesson 8 is push until the final whistle. And I know I'm using football terminology, but when you watch a game and in some of this documentary scenes, you would see that the team fought until that final whistle because it's not over until it's actually over. One of the things where this is most important to is your business meeting your targets. So every month you should have a target. What do you want to achieve in your business? And literally do not give up until that last minute on the last day of the month or of the year to hit that target. And the same happens for sales teams. If you have a sales team under you, don't let them wait until the final whistle to meet their sales targets, but also don't let them give up until that final minute. I know the other day, a local business, I spoke to somebody in the business and they said it was 2 days before the end of the month, and their manager pulled them aside and said, we might not hit target this month because this is how much we still have to achieve over the next 2 days. The manager had kind of lost, I guess, hope, but the team didn't, and they kept pushing until the final minute. And not only did they achieve the target, but they actually exceeded it. But if everyone dropped down and thought, yeah, it's over for this month, let's try again next month, that wouldn't have happened. So do not stop, do not give up, and keep pushing until that final whistle. For yourself as a business owner, for anyone on your team, don't let them slack down because it's the last day, we might not hit our targets. No, keep pushing until that final whistle. And then the last of the lessons that I created, or the last of the lessons that I came across, but like I say, there were a ton. So I picked out 9 lessons, and I would appreciate if you let me know what you thought of them. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Did you watch the documentary? Did you pick up any others? But the last of the list that I created, so the final 9 that I created, is don't be afraid to make changes and to try new things. In business, it's easy to settle. It's easy to accept things as they are. It sometimes can feel extremely scary to try something new and to try and implement something new. But don't let that be the case. So don't be afraid to make changes. Don't be afraid to try something new. bringing it back to this football documentary, if you're a fan of sports, you know that there are substitutions that can take place. That is changes that you can make to try and change the trajectory of something or change how things are happening. So you might be losing a game, to keep it into the football terms, and a change might change how everything happens. You could end up winning that game at the end. The same in business. Is there a strategy that you're trying that isn't quite working? Make a change. Is there whatever, maybe a marketing effort or marketing campaign that you are trying, it's not paying off? Make a change. Try something different. If you've got team players that are not quite performing, make a change. So it doesn't mean you have to necessarily get them out of your company, but put them into different positions, or try and see if you can help them with anything that might be affecting them. Make changes, right? And try new things. So even in terms of strategies in football, sometimes, because it's the same as you keeping an eye on your rivals are keeping an eye on you. Sometimes you have to try new things to now be different, or to try and outsmart your rivals. This is extremely important in business. If you keep trying the exact same thing, you're going to keep getting the exact same results. And that's all good if things are going well. So if things are going well in your business, by all means, don't go and break a system, or don't go and break something that is fix something that isn't broken. All right? But if things are not quite going as well as they should be going, don't be afraid to make changes and to try new things, because that can be a very important thing in your business. It could really change the trajectory of your business, because the last thing you want is to stay the same and end up dropping down to competitors. So keep going, make changes. I hope some of these stood out to you. And I think there's a ton more. There's a few more that I didn't add today. Maybe I do a follow-up video, who knows. But these are the 9 I wanted to share with you today. And as I mentioned once or twice, I'd love to hear from you. What do you think about these? Did you watch the documentary? Did you pick up any others? And otherwise, that's it for today's video. I can't wait to share more videos with you guys, more lessons. And if you enjoyed this video, also give me a thumbs up. And I hope to see you soon.